Hey everybody, so I just wanted to show you these speaker stands really quick and talk about what I was thinking when I came up with the design for them. I had a few objectives that I really wanted to meet. I wanted to make a quality set of stands at a reasonable price that could accommodate a lot of different speakers. Some people wanted me to just build more of those ADS 810 speaker stands, those big boxy looking ones. But that's already being done by other people. And honestly, I really wanted to make one stand that could make a lot of different people happy. And so what I've come up with here is kind of unique, and I'll show you really quick exactly how they work. So what we've got here is an 810, which is a really large bookshelf speaker, and a 700, which is a much smaller speaker. And so from the same seating position, the tilt on these stands would need to be different for each of those two different size speakers. And so what I did was I came up with a way of making them adjustable. And so I'll show you really quick how that works. So what you can do is, dependent upon exactly where your seating position is and the height of your seating position, you can put more or less tilt into these just by adjusting them on the bottom down here. And so you'd be amazed at just what a 1/4 inch, how much of a difference it'll make in terms of exactly where the sound ends up at your seating position. And so these stands will work just fine for a smaller bookshelf or even a large speaker, which is really nice. I should also mention that I built them with caps so that they can be filled with sand. These have sand in them right now, and they are very heavy. They're really substantial feeling. They've got a nice little cable guide in the back of them. The actual production ones, this is my own personal set that I just built a couple of days ago, but I think the production ones, they're all going to have a little circle hole drilled in each of the sides just to kind of jazz them up a little bit. So anyway, I've got the jigging to produce more of these. If you're interested in a set, you can always give me a shout here at the shop, 360-840-7139. Hope to talk to you soon. Thanks, guys. Bye. All right, so this is the jig for the speaker stands. And, the speaker stands are, in 3 dimensions, have to be really, really precise. You'll really notice if things aren't just quite exactly where they're supposed to be. But like the motorcycle frames that I produce out of this same type of stock, it's not nearly as critical. It's weird that this jig looks nothing like any jig I've ever created in the past either. It's weird because in 3 dimensions this has to be absolutely perfect, but it's the flattest, it's the most one-dimensional jig I've ever created. So I spent a lot of time trying to think about how would I get these frames to come, what would a jig need to look like in order to get these built correctly. And this isn't exactly what I thought in my mind I would end up with, but this is what works, so I'm going to go with it. So I thought you guys might find it interesting to get to see exactly sort of how these go in. So also there's this fixture that goes to it. So this started out, it was inverted and in place on this side, and this is just a piece that would fit down from the top that keeps everything spaced exactly where it needs to be. So once it's flipped back over, this was all welded while it was on that side. You flip it over, and now I'm going to do the final welding for this side. This piece needs to go in, the back crossbar with the threadable nut. I'll show you really quick. So this is going to end up put on here like so, and another one of these. It'll go inside of here and be held into place, and I'll get welded up. It's really kind of tricky. You have to do everything in a real precise order. Otherwise, when you go to pull this out of the jig, the heat will it'll distort things, and it won't come out where everything is nice and square. You'll pull it out of the jig, and it'll try to pull together, or it'll try to spread apart. So it's definitely some technique that goes into that. So let's go over here and we'll take a look at one. Actually, there's a couple of them here. So since the new jig was built, here's a few of them. And I've made a few minor changes. This is my personal set. You can see that this flat stock's a little bit wider on my set. I decided to narrow it up and put a little hole in it just to kind of jazz it up a little bit. But this is basically the final design. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how these look when they come back from powder coating. They just looked a little bit too blocky. I was doing some stuff, the original ones, that angled part was done in the square stock too. And it just, you know, they just don't look real good. There's just too much of it. And so, you know, once I had the basic idea of what the angles needed to be, what the dimensions basically needed to be, after that part, after I got that just right, I started thinking about, you know, things that I could do to sort of, you know, just make them look kind of nice. So that's where I'm at now. Anyway, I'll talk to you guys here in a bit. All right, so I just finished welding the second part of this. Let's see how I did. Even the clamp force, if you put too much clamp force in, it'll spring back when you go to take it out of here. So you would think that just by clamping it down really good would cover it. Not necessarily. So, let's see, I just saw it move just about 1/2 of a millimeter, which is fine. It just barely right there. I don't know if you guys will even be able to see it. There's just a little tiny gap in there. Man, it's really hard to control all that heat. So, yeah, that's good.